Okay, people, welcome back to another Fwoosh Weekly. As always, I'm Robo, and today's theme is, well, it seems to be muscle mass. Beefiness, bulkiness. No, I'm not talking about me. Stop it. You. But there's also a lot of villainy. Don't get me wrong, there's a few hero action figures to talk about, but the bad guys have definitely taken over. Ain't nothing wrong with that, though, really. It's more toys. That's the basis for all this. More action figures. Last week we got one pretty promotional picture for the Threezero Transformers MDLX Megatron, which usually means that solicitations are right around the corner. This week, that corner came and went. Getting a better look at this absolute work of art, ooh, it's just as beautiful as we were led to believe. It has that Threezero quality of being way busy, but also being cohesive. There's just a lot to look at here, but all of that is part of the whole. Where am I going with this? Action figure wise, though, it seems to have all the articulation and range of motion that we've come to expect with the MDLX line, with Optimus, with Bumblebee, now Megatron. Okay, I do have one nitpick, and it's mostly because, well, it's a personal nitpick, because I am firmly G1. Megatron's design is a bit curvy to how I usually picture him. There's still angles, but I think it comes down to the chest, you know? In my mind, Megatron has that big, broad, flat chest, which is weird to say. You know what I'm talking about. But the whole concept of this series is to take the 80s aesthetic and modernize it. And in that aspect, they did a fantastic job. I'm not griping about this. It's just that I have to tweak my expectations just slightly, because I still love it. The patina, the colors, just everything. They did throw me with the weapon feature, though. There's Thick Boy mode, which we're used to seeing. Then there's another option where a smaller gun barrel extends out, or it attaches something. Then a third alternative shows the lower part removed for a slimmer look of some kind. And you know where I'm going with this, but for me, oh man, the big chunky, bigger than his arm cannon, that's how it'll be on my shelf. Otherwise, there's just swappable hands. $80 due out late 2022, early 2023, somewhere in there, depending on which website you pre-order this from. Jumping from one evil transforming robot to another, here is the KFC Toys Toecutter. If that's a reference to something, it's completely lost on me, but let's not beat around the bush. This is a third-party GoBot Psykill. This was actually solicited last year, but I somehow missed it. It's in a group of Junkions, third-party, of course, and each Junkion looks different, and that makes sense because, you know, Psykill Junkions, there's usually an alt mode of motorcycle, so they kind of slipped this one in with the rest of them. And the reason I'm running across it now is because I'm kind of in a GoBots mode. A couple of weeks ago at Big Fun in Columbus, Ohio, I picked up the original Bug Bite, just purely for kind of nostalgia's sake, and also because my first car was a Volkswagen Bug. But I'm not really a vintage guy, so I started looking for something a little more modern. Of course, I ran across the Action Toys Machine Robo line, where they had two waves of smaller scale, and then they had Bike Robo in the DX scale, which was slightly larger. Well, I think they went from 4.5 to 7 inch. Then I ran across this, which is 8 inches, and it looks a little more sinister, a little more bad guy than the Action Toys version. I'm guessing because that was Bike Robo, who was actually a hero at some point in the original series, and then Psykill was the bad guy in the... I don't know. I don't know a lot about GoBots. I just know that this looks more villainous. And it looks more toy-like, which for some reason is setting off some kind of... maybe I do need it. And it still transforms into bike mode. Can I use transforms here? People get pissed off whenever you use converts for a transformer. Can you use transform for a GoBot? He GoBotifies. How about that? I think the only problem here is that it seems to be a one-off. Again, it was kind of slipped in with a group of Junkions. So there's probably not much chance of ankle blaster or finger jammer or nose chopper. KFC, call me. I got ideas. If you're into world building, this may not work. Again, well, I say that. They could announce more later, but at the moment, it's just this one. If you are looking for a nice looking 8-inch Psykill for your display, this is $115, due out here in the next couple months, I think. Jumping back to last week again, McFarlane Toys showed the beginning of their DC Multiverse Arkham City wave. There's Batman, of course. Not only is it DC Multiverse, gotta have your Batmans, it's also Arkham City, which is Batman based, so why wouldn't they make a Batman? We also talked about Penguin, who has more articulation than I was expecting. You think of Penguin, you think of waddle, 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 poke, 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 shoot, shoot, shoot. This one can probably do more than that. Then, as it always happens, as soon as the weekly went live on YouTube, Todd showed off Catwoman. Does have kind of a diaper look, but I'm thinking that's because of the deep crouch. That kind of accentuates it, exacerbates it. Them thigh muscles are pushing up the crotch cover. So I'm thinking in a more neutral position, the silhouette will be less broken. To finish off the wave, there is Ra's al Ghul, or Ra's al Ghul, depending on converts, transforms, race, Rosh, Mafex, Mafex, Mafex. Pick your poison. In fact, I can already hear you typing away, you rapscallions, you. Is the hair more Super Saiyan than I remember in the game, or has it just been that long since I've played this game? I will say I did restart it here a couple of weeks ago, but I just did Batman things, you know, glide around. I haven't actually got into the missions yet. I just like floating around the city, beating up bad guys. But that's not all. It was intended to be a build-a-wave from the start. And if you get all 4 of these characters, you're going to build yourself a Solomon Grundy. Now, when I first saw it, I thought, man, that is very, very similar to the DC Collectibles version, which makes sense. They're probably using the same game models. But then the DCC had bicep swivels and that removable chest piece for exposed innards. The McFarlane version obviously doesn't have the arm joint, probably doesn't have the secret compartment, does have toes. So that's the big separation between the two figures. Todd didn't stop there. They also revealed the Walmart exclusive gold label Shazam after it already started popping up at Walmarts. Sometimes I give companies a hard time when something like this happens because it feels like they can't keep track of their own product, or they just release it without warning. But it's also, it's nostalgic when something like this happens, when we just find it on pegs before it gets glammed and glitzed to death. In fact, maybe this is a sign that the line is happy and healthy, that it's doing better than they expected, or sales projections, whatever, that they have a lot of confidence in the product selling itself. Or, and I'm leaning in this direction, Walmart is just being Walmart and jumping the gun on the rollout. Because stay tuned for next week whenever McFarlane announces their brand spanking new DC Multiverse Gold Label Walmart exclusive Dark Flash that people have been finding for the past week and a half. Oh, Walmart. Case in point, a general release like the Warhammer 40k Dark Tide Ogryn? Am I getting that right? Ogryn Megafig goes off without a hitch. They put out the full spread of pretty promotional pictures. It went up for pre-order on various sites all at the same time. And you know the drill. Robo don't know a thing about Warhammer, but dang if they don't look like fun toys. Take a look at this guy. I am sure he's some kind of firmly established character within the Warhammer lore, or if he's some kind of army builder, there's backstory and how they're trained and the weapons they use and how they can be defeated. But to me, this just looks like a big bulky bastard of a toy. This is just a brawny bruiser that attacks the Guardians of the Galaxy when they're between missions or something. As always, if you're more of the DIY type, there is also an artist-proof edition. And I know people have their complaints with this style of variant when it comes to DC Multiverse, but in the Warhammer universe, it makes complete sense. You can paint it up and do whatever you want with it. Or you can leave it in the package and just appreciate the primerness of it. In fact, keeping with the Guardians theme, now that I've looked at this and thought of different paint schemes for it, I kind of get an original modern style Charlie 27 vibe off of it. $40 a pop, should be shipping sometime early September. I figured Super 7 was going to hold off on the Ultimates announcements for a bit after going whole hog last week, because there was a few, but nope, that's not the case. Here is Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Ultimates Wave 8. Now, their standard practice is to have 3 waves in the pre-order holding pattern at any given time, but they did announce that Wave 5 is at the docks and waiting to go to the warehouse, while Wave 6 has finished production and is on the water. So I guess it's time for more turtles, like Space Cadet Raphael. This was kind of expected after Samurai Leonardo and Surfer Michelangelo, and with an undercover Raph out there, it makes sense to push undercover Donatello out further. Plus, You want to save the best turtle for last again, right, everybody? Right? At this point, I'm pretty happy with my core turtles, and I don't really deep dive into lesser-known characters or variations, but you put a Stormtrooper helmet or a Stormtrooper-like helmet on anything, and I'm tempted. Plus laser saw, come on now. For Robot Rocksteady, this looks absolutely fantastic. I'm a sucker for metal-type characters, robotic features, but again, just can't do it. I've got to keep with the core cast. Sorry, Rocksteady. Same goes for Genghis Frog. I have no connection to the character, but I know that a lot of people are excited. In fact, this may be the main draw of the wave because it's a known character. I completely get it, but there's also the fact that, oh, he looks like he partied a little too hardy, Marty. Those eyes are staring through my soul, and I can't get over a tongue gun. Imagine that in real life, coming out and just... But notice I saved the most controversial for last. Here is Silver Armor Shredder. And this is apparently a reference to an unproduced figure back in the day where he was still shirtless but had silver armor. The general consensus, though, is that the torso probably should have been painted gray to be more like the cartoon Shredder from Playmates. Maybe Playmates cockblocked that because they just released a cartoon Shredder, was it last year, in a 2-pack? Or is Super 7 planning to do yet another version of Shredder down the line here in 4 or 5 waves? Either way, while I would prefer the gray shirt, I ain't gonna lie, I like this. I love the silver, I dig the deeper purple, and I really like the shadow helmet head. Hell, since there's no articulation breaks in the torso, I may get this and just paint the gray myself. Throw on the other kind of robe-like cape, and that can be 2 shredders for my eventual TMNT shelf. $55 a piece except for big ol' Rocksteady. He's $65. Due out next summer. I don't talk about ZD Toys much. They're bigger and harder to keep track of, but whew, this Venom ran across my feed this week and I had to do a double take. Ooh, what is that? ZD Toys? I only hear about this company whenever someone is commenting about how much better it is whenever I review any Iron Man figure from any company. Every single time. So I only have that to base any opinion of quality here, but looks... it's looking pretty sweet. It has that purpley black oily mess that I like on my Venom figures, that bumpy fluidity. Silent lucidity. Bumpy fluidity. It's weird to go double knees and double elbows without having any kind of torso articulation, but looking at past releases, that may be an engineering decision. Like everyone tells me, the Iron Mans look good with joints hidden by armor ridges and plates, but spandex wearing Spideys seem to break up nasty when cranked around. Plus this Venom is big, clocking in at about 10 inches, which makes sense. ZD Toys is scaled slightly larger than your Marvel Legends. But being what it is, you can fudge him in as some kind of monster Venom if you want to use it on a 1/12 scale shelf. Craziest of all though, and again, I don't know a lot about this company, but is the MSRP $27? Does it compute? It's hard to wrap my brain around that. I haven't found an actual reputable site with pre-orders for this. I don't know where y'all get your ZD Toys, but what little I've seen, $27. Where do you get these things? Because I'm asking for a friend. Speaking of huge honkin' figures, Diamond solicited their Marvel Select Beta Ray Bill, and if you've been hankering for a modern version of this character, I don't know if you're going to be able to beat this. The plume on the top of the helmet throws me off, only because I don't recognize it. I haven't seen his modern look until this exact moment, but judging by the rest of the costume, it's a nice modernization of his classic look, which is my favorite kind of update. And it's not like I hate the helmet. Looking closer, it has the Thor-type wings on the side, and then it's because he has a horse head, right? It's a mane that ties into his look. That's clever. More than that, though, it comes with one of those hammer spinning effects for Stormbreaker. I loved it on the Marvel Select Thor. I think I'm going to love it here, too. Did I just talk myself into this? Because I saw this in the case back at San Diego Comic-Con and thought, that's not my version of Beta Ray Bill. I ain't getting that. The power of pretty promotional pictures. It's about 10 inches to the top of the crest, 8.5 inches to the top of the head. So if you like your Beta Ray Bill round and big when he's throwing a gig, You probably just can't help yourself. You're acting like an animal. Now here's the scandal. You want to take him home and shuffle him up, And I'm thinking with the proportions here, if you're not into the open mouth and elaborate helmet, it's probably possible to swap with the more modern Marvel Legends version. Or, I've seen it suggested that with a little elbow grease, you could probably turn this into a nice, larger Odin. $30 expected to ship early 2023. Finally, let's cap off this weekly with some Marvel Legends updates. Nothing really new, just some things going up for pre-order and a better look at an announced figure. We talked about the Amazon exclusive Spider-Man multi-pack last week, but it hadn't been up for pre-order yet then. This week, pre-order. There's your update. Again, I already talked about these figures last week. There's two I absolutely need with Razorback and Human Fly. There's two that are kind of just hole pluggers with Silvermane and Molten Man. And then there's Purple Spider-Man. Wasn't really high on my list, but I don't have a Purple Spider-Man. So I'm good with it, but I think if they had done like a light blue Spider-Man, more classic feeling on one of the newer bodies, people would have been, oh, I need that Spider-Man. And then I'll get these lesser known villains with them. Well, I say villains, Razorback was a misunderstanding. $128 scheduled for January. And then even though she was revealed at San Diego Comic-Con, this week we finally got pre-orders for the Disney Plus She-Hulk. They waited until now because the series also kicked off this week, and they didn't show it until San Diego Comic-Con because that's when the trailer dropped. And I said finally because this finishes off the wave that started reveals way back last December. As far as Jennifer goes, I know it is blatantly MCU, but if you really wanted to, you could probably sneak this into a comic shelf. Well, you, me, whoever. I love the look of this. Especially the pastel green. But looking at that closer, the knees and the elbows are a slightly different shade. I'm hoping that either it won't be noticeable on the final product or it's fixed before then. Because I saw people coming out of SDCC with samples of this, and that was never mentioned. Was this even a thing until the pictures this week? The wave is listed as releasing next March, but again, with those samples making it out of Comic-Con and it taking 9 months to show the whole wave, I gotta think it's gonna be earlier than that. But don't quote me on that. In fact, never quote me on anything. I don't know what I'm talking about half the time. And this is where I usually say, oh, well, that's it for this week, but we all know probably not. If I missed anything, we'll swing back around next week. If you're interested in seeing any of these pictures up close without me all, oh, it's so big and burly and bulky and brawny, muscles. I'll be posting all of that along with links to pre-orders, more information on the Fwoosh front page Saturday at noon. But if you can't wait that long, links are in the description. I don't really have anything else to say. How y'all doing? You doing okay? You buying the toys without getting yourself in too much trouble? That's always a steep slope. Since coming back from PowerCon, I don't think I've opened anything except the 2 reviews I've done. I've just kind of been going through figures on the desk and on the floor and in the stacks, just kind of appreciating what I got. You start a pile and stuff gets on top, you forget about the stuff down here. So sometimes you have to dig, and that's what I've been doing. That's all I got. But if you enjoyed the weekly, comment, like, subscribe. Much love to the plus. If you're interested in seeing videos early or in a position to help out the channel, patreon.com. But wherever you may be watching this, I'll always catch you on the Fwoosh. Oh, and some playdays are coming. There's been things building up. Packages in the P.O. box, in the mailbox, given to me at shows, and then some custom plans of my own. In fact, I got these in the past week, and I have big plans. It's actually action figure related. I don't know if I needed this many beads, but I guess sometimes you gotta overkill it. What if I mess up? What if I drop them? What if I lose them? What if I don't remember to actually do this once I finally get the figure I'm hoping to put these on? Oh, now that I say it like that, though, I have 2 ideas. 3? Where am I going with it? Oh, okay. God dang, I love customs.